Hi everyone. I can see we've still got some people joining us, but hopefully everyone's getting on board now. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Claire from Colt Pens, and on this World Calligraphy Day, happy World Calligraphy Day, everybody. I'm delighted to welcome you to our intermediate calligraphy workshop, which our friends at Manuscript have helped us set up. And this is going to be hosted by the marvellous Lucy Davies, who might be better known to some of you as Little Old Goose, and we'll come on to that. Before I hand over to Lucy, there are a couple of points of housekeeping to highlight. Oh, actually, Lucy, do you want to give us a wave? She's just come on. Yay! Lucy's just going to get her camera set up before we hand over. A couple of points of housekeeping to highlight. We anticipate the session is going to last up to about an hour, so get yourself nice and comfy. The session is being recorded and we will make the recording available. It's probably going to be a few days, it might be early next week, but it will be available to you all. So if you do miss something, you will have a chance to have another look. All cameras and sound are switched off for the duration of the session. But if you do have any questions, there is a Q&A button that you should be able to see, hopefully at the bottom of your screen. So you can ask your questions in Q&A, and Christine and Louise from the Colt Pens team and myself will be on hand to answer your questions. And where possible, we may gently interrupt Lucy along the way and ask some of those questions directly to her as we go along. It might also be that we have a little bit of time at the end for some questions too, so we'll just see how we get on. So if everybody is sitting comfortably, and Lucy, if you're ready, then I will hand over to you to start you off. And I think first question from me is, where does the name Little Old Goose come from, please? If you could start with that, that would be lovely. And I'll see you a bit later.
Yeah, see you in a bit. Little Old Goose. Hi everyone, by the way. Happy World Calligraphy Day. Very excited to be here. And Little Old Goose. So Little Old Goose started out about 11 years ago. It must be 11 years ago. I was traveling in Australia, as all good stories start. And friends of mine started calling, my name's Lucy, obviously, and someone started calling me Lucy Goosey. I don't know where it came from, but they started, and then it shortened to Goose, and I was called Goose for the majority of my travelling year. And on return, I moved to a new city, discovering somewhere new and being creative, trying to, start a new life back in the UK. And I started a blog, and when I was coming up with names, it kind of evolved and it somehow became Little Old Goose. And then over the last, say, 10 years, it's just evolved from there. Basically, I started out as a blog, and then it became a little side business that I had. And then when I started calligraphy about 6 years ago, or the brush lettering side of calligraphy about 6 years ago, I just decided to continue with Little Old Goose. It stuck. I couldn't shift it. There was nothing else that was ringing in my ear saying, let's call your Instagram handles. I didn't want to be Lucy Davies Calligraphy. I felt like it really restricted me. And the fact that Little Old Goose is almost like a hat that kind of, and lots of things sit under it. So I've got my brush pen calligraphy workshops that I teach in person and online and things like this. I've got chalkboards that I do for weddings, events, and signage for restaurants and bars, and I've got commissions that do, but I just like the fact that Little Old Goose is kind of like the hat that sits and everything sits underneath it. So it's evolved, and it's just going to evolve with me, and who knows where Little Old Goose will take me after this, you never know. So yeah, that's a little bit about me and my name, and I'm really thrilled to be able to teach you this evening. So I'm kind of guessing that most of you have got some experience of some calligraphy background, maybe some faux calligraphy, just simple faux calligraphy, or brush pen calligraphy, modern calligraphy, some basics. Basically, I'm kind of going on that premise. We're going to cover a few little bits as well, but what I am going to show you, I'm going to just turn that camera off, and I think my hands should be spotlighted now, so you should be able to see. I'm going to stop this video. there we go. So for this evening's little workshop, we're going to be working on a little postcard sized piece like this, and the quote, enjoy the little things. I've done it, it's about A6 size I've cut this down to, or greetings card size. I think it's perfect for either, like I said, a greetings card, or you can pop it in the post in an envelope to someone. You could write on the back, or you could pop it in a little frame. And if you are really pleased with your final piece, then display it and put it out for the world to see. I've got lots of little random quotes that I've written, and I've got washi tape and I pop them on my wall of my office or my spare room. And yeah, it's just, if you're proud of it, display it. So yes, so I'm going to teach you all about how to think about your layout, spacing, how you can add some little embellishments of like banners and some floral decorations. So as I mentioned, if you've got some basic knowledge of calligraphy, when you first learn those basic strokes and drills, it's about that technique, and you're learning those skills of the thin upstrokes and the thick downstrokes. Never really touch on how to lay out things and work things out that way. So I thought I would kind of show you a few tips and tricks, and hopefully you will have your own little piece like that. So to begin with, the kit that I've got, I know that the guys have mentioned the bits and bobs that would be good for this workshop this evening, but I just run through a few things that I've got with me this evening. So first off is paper. The paper that I'm using is a thick, this is a watercolor, cold pressed watercolor paper, so it's actually really thick, kind of sturdy card almost, which I've cut down to size. And I've got a few more here, which I've kept as backup for just in case of any mistakes, and you never know. But paper-wise, it's up to you. You can have if you had some greeting cards that you wanted to make, or if you just wanted to practice on some really nice paper, it's totally up to you. But I would suggest that with paper, it has to be, the smoother the better, especially when you're using brush pens. I ruined many a brush pen in my early days of learning on just basic printer paper, just because it just shreds the brushes. You'll soon see when the brushes start to wear out a little bit. But so I always say the smoother the better. This watercolor card here it's got some texture to it because obviously it's watercolor, it has to absorb the ink and hold it, but it's still relatively smooth. So it's nice to write on. You may be able to hear some seagulls in the background. I live by the seaside and the window's open, but try and ignore them. Anyway, and so I've covered paper, a nice thick sturdy bit of paper, and then we've got some brush pens. So I've got a medium black brush pen here that I'm going to be working with to do the writing, and I've got some manuscript fine liners. I've got a blue and a black one there. I don't know, I think I'll probably use the black one for this one, but we'll see how we go later on. That's for the flowers. And I've got some lovely brush pens. I've got a couple of manuscript brush pens here, and I've also got some of the jewel tip. I've got a big pot here next to me of jewel tip ones, which will be great for the flower decorations. And I've got a very important pencil and eraser, because I always need a pencil and eraser. So I think that is everything. Just going back to the paper quickly, there's and pens and everything, as Claire mentioned, Cult Pens, they've got stacks on their website of everything. I've used Cult Pens for a few years now, so I would definitely recommend them. And pop over manuscript, there's stacks of manuscript, the bits and bobs on there as well, the pens and the paper, and there's a really good practice pad from manuscript on there, which is really nice smooth paper on there. So yeah, I would recommend it. Let's go on. So first things first with this, I don't know about you, but if you've been at work all day today, you might not have had any time to practice or warm up at least. So if you have some experience of calligraphy, whether it be brush pen calligraphy, modern calligraphy, faux calligraphy, it's really good to warm up. And I just always do a bit of a warm up before I start anything, just to stop any shaky hands, any wobbles, check your pen's okay, that kind of thing. So these are the basic strokes. that I cover in workshops. You may have seen these may look familiar to you. But the premise of obviously the calligraphy is the thin upstrokes and the thick downstrokes. So I'm just going to have a little warm up. If you've got any questions about these, by all means pop them in the chat box. I'm just going to run through. I'm not going to do a full sheet of drills because obviously time wise I want to show you how to do this, but this is really important, especially to give you a bit of a warm up and get you going. So we've got the thin upstroke and a thick downstroke. So I'm just going to have a bit of a warm up. If there's any questions, like I said, to begin with, drop them in the chat box. But I'm just going to do a few of each. I'm going to do 3 of each just to kind of get going. And you can see how slowly or how I'm controlling the brush. Gives a nice satisfying squeak, this brush pen. Nice thick downstroke. And I'm going to do the underturn. And the overturn. Now, if you were doing faux calligraphy, for example, if you've only ever done faux calligraphy, then you would do these strokes with a simple felt tip or bullet tip, and then simply fill in those downstrokes to kind of mimic the calligraphy effect. And then we've got the underturn, so it always looks like a bit like a J, but it can be the bottom of a G or a Y. But it's just controlling that brush pen. It's just so good for warming up, and before you do any final pieces or things like that, or projects, or if you've got the commission to do, I would always recommend doing a little warm up first. And lastly, the O shape. And this O shape can be tricky with different pens, but once you get it under control, that kind of starts the beginning of an A or a G. So I've had a little bit of a warm up. I'm just going to leave those there for you for a sec, just have a quick look. Has everyone done these basic strokes before? Anyone that's never seen those before, drop them in the chat box, let me know. It's always interesting to know. Obviously I can't see people, so okay, so I'll pop those to the side. If anyone wants to have a look at those again later on, do let me know. So now I've warmed up, I'm going to get my blank piece here. And first thing I'm going to do with my pencil and pen, is I'm going to sketch out a really light border around the edge, probably about ½ centimetre around, just so that I'm not working to the very, very edge of this card for various reasons, but mainly because if you were going to put it in a frame, for example, you want to obviously allow for that spacing so the edges aren't lost within a frame. Or I don't know, smudging on the edge and things like that if it was a card, for example. And I just think it looks a lot neater and tidier if you kind of just got a bit of allowance around the edge. So I'm going to do a really light pencil marking. Just, it doesn't have to be completely neat. It's just a bit of a guideline. I can't really see on that light, but it's just a bit of a guideline really. You can rub it out afterwards. You can see very light, it's really light. It's not a very you know, dark pencil, so it'll rub out really easily. It's just to give you a bit of a border. And then we're going to break it down into some shapes, some really light markings to know where you want to put the pen marks. And we're going to break it down into 4 of this card. And to begin with, I'm going to ignore the word the. And I may sound crazy by saying that, but the word, I say like the boring words, I don't like to make a feature of them. And by boring words, I mean like the, and, is, it, but, etc. Because if I was to then write out enjoy the little things, all in lowercase calligraphy, then that word the could accidentally become a feature word, and it would maybe read as enjoy the little things, and it wouldn't read right. So what we want to do is make a feature of basically the important words of that. So enjoy little things. So what I'm going to do first is break it down into, if you have a look on here, I'm going to kind of break it down into, that's one chunk, then little is another one, things is the third one, and then we're kind of leaving a little bit of space for flowers. So I'm going to roughly mark out. So I kind of want about, let's say about that for flowers, roughly. This is a really rough guide. And then I'm going to split those into 3. So I'm going to allow that for enjoy, but I'm also going to add a bit of an angle to that, because I want to make sure there's enough space for my word the afterwards. And then little, I'm going to split that into 3. Maybe about that. So that's roughly equal spacing, if you can see. It's really light pencil work. And then the bottom bit here allows for the bottom of that G to come down, and then we can work the flowers around it. It just gives you that kind of idea of space. And the reason, like I said, is I've added an angle to that line there, so enjoy will kind of almost slightly get smaller as we get to the Y, just to allow enough space for the bottom of the Y, and then we can add in a little banner here. So I've made my marks on there. Now it's entirely up to you whether you want to use a pencil and kind of write out where you want the words to go. Just making sure that you don't trace exactly what you've written. I might just roughly write out where I want the words to go, just to give myself a bit of an idea of spacing. So I want a capital E to be starting about here. I'm just going to roughly sketch it out. And then about there. Again, I'm not going to trace over it. It's just to give myself a bit of an idea of spacing, and then I can rub it out if I'm not sure where I want the bottom of the J to go, how low, or the Y, for example, then I can just kind of give myself some guidelines. Reckon about that. Maybe we'll see how we are. I might lower that space here, and then the word little, we'll bring that up here, I think about here. Again, really rough guidelines. You want the tops of the T's. I don't want the tops of the T and the bottom of that J. I don't want that to join or knock together. So what I might do is bring that loop. I want like a bit of a guideline of where my J finishes there. Just gonna look that bit up. Again, don't press too hard because you want to be able to rub it out afterwards. And then that E, I'm going to bring quite low here, roughly. I don't want it to go any higher than that because I want to have a nice little gap here for my word the. So what I might do for that purpose is just, I think I don't want it to go any lower than that. and things. This way I can be a bit more looser with my, because I don't have to, I won't knock into anything there. I'm going to bring that nice and low, I reckon, that G. So I'm just making some marks. It's not, you know, it's not set in stone. It doesn't have to be. It's when you get your brush pen or your pen that you're using, you'll go with the flow a bit more. It's just to give myself an idea of where I want things to match up and not hit each other, if that makes sense. So, we're ready to write some letters. Any questions before I start writing? Do let me know.
I think everyone's concentrating, Lucy. It's very fun.
Everyone's very, very into it. Good. Fab. Okay, so there may be times when I go a bit quiet just because I'm trying to make sure that I'm concentrating and not misspelling a word, which, I mean, it sounds bizarre when they're not very long words, but honestly, the times and when I've done workshops before, or I've been writing, you know, words that I've written time and time again, and you end up spelling it wrong because you're concentrating so much. It sounds so silly. I taught a workshop once when there was a lady, and she just, out of nowhere, it was silent, and she went, "Oh no." I said, "What, is everything okay?" And she said, "I've just spelt my own name wrong." I said, "Oh no." She said, "I've had this name for 45 years. I said, "How?" She said, "How have I spelled it wrong?" But she was concentrating so much on the spacing, or like the shapes that she was writing, and she misspelled her own name. So it happens, honestly. So take your time. I've always got backups. So if I do make a complete mess, we can start over, but hopefully not. So I'm going to have, I'm just going to check the lighting. Give me a moment. It's a bit lighter. So let's start with this E. The first letter is always the hardest one to get onto the page, and then the rest slowly forms afterwards, but it's always putting that first brush pen mark down, and I'm going to go for it. So nice thick pressure on the way down, and don't have to rush, take our time. Like I said, it's got a good squeak, this pen. First letter done, it's on the page. So it's, I take my time with my calligraphy anyway. There's no rushing involved with calligraphy. It's a mindful hobby. Of those of you who practice it regularly will know this. So I like to take my time, and also by taking your time, it really helps you gauge your spacing. So, you know, if you're rushing, you're going to then rush through and then end up with letters all over the place, or you'll rush through it so quickly that you'll end up with no space on the right hand side here for that kind of banner that we'll do. So really taking our time, and nice thick down strokes. And again, I'm not tracing those pencil marks that I've done. They're just purely for guidelines. I'm going to go with kind of what I feel with the brush. It's just to make sure that I don't go any lower than that bit there that I marked out, and that bit there, so I've got enough space. So I'm going to go and bring my pen up, and a nice thick downstroke up. So I've done my loop slightly differently to my, I've lost the word now, my demonstration piece. I just kind of went with it then, and I brought it back up to join up to the O, but I quite like that, so that's fine. Nice and slowly. the main thing is I didn't go any lower than my marking that I didn't want to go any lower on that J, so that's fine. I know that when I'm doing my T's, they won't hit, but I want to make sure that that Y comes round and add a little loop to it. And then I can dot that J afterwards. And when I'm doing a dot, I said I can do a dot. I mean, people ask me about the dots. You can simply do like a little circle and fill it in if you want to. I tend to do a bit of a notch with the brush pen. I think it kind of ties in with the brush marks that you're making. So we've got the first word down. Let's go on to the word little. So remember, I'm not writing the word the until the end because I want to see what space I've got to work with. I wouldn't want to write the word the in there now and then kind of then squash in that word little afterwards. So go nice and slowly. And bringing that pen all the way up to the top where I want that T to start. So giving me some nice match, equal space between the L and then the I and then the T. And then I can use that as a guide for my downstroke. And then bringing it back up again. I'm not going to go as high this time because otherwise I think that would be too close to the bottom of that J. So it adds a bit of shape to the word as well with a bit of bounce in the letters. And again, I'm not crossing that T yet. I'm going to do the 2 T's afterwards so I can see what space I've got. So I'm going to bring that pen up, loop it, and then down, and bring it up to where I want that E to start. Again, really taking my time because I don't want that E to go too high because I want enough space for the. So I might go even a bit shorter and then bring it up. There we go. And then we shall cross the T's and dot the I. So which way around do I do it? I think I'm going to dot the I first, or do a little notch, and then I can see what space I've got. So then I can decide whether I want to just do a simple cross of the T, or I want to kind of make use of the space and add a bit of a curve to it. What do we think? I'm going to go down. Do I go down and up? Nice big questions, but I kind of get very obsessive about these little things sometimes. Which way I want it to look nice, I'm going to go with it. I'm going to add a curve like that. We went with it. Might just add a little bit on the end there, like so. Yeah, and then we'll crack on with the word things. So the good thing about this with things is the bottom, we don't have to worry too much about how low we go with the G because we can work the flowers around it. But I'm going to do a downstroke here and I'm going to do a fancy loop on that T and H. So to do that, do a nice thick downstroke and bring it up, not all the way to the top of the H. I'm going to bring it up about halfway, and then to cross that T and then loop, I'm going to start it here, bring it across, and then we go round and then loop down and use that as a guide to where you bring the pen down. Just going to add a bit more thickness to that one because I didn't press hard enough. And then we can crack on with the H. Bring that up. And then letter I. bring that a bit lower, just like adding a little bit of bounce to the letters, a bit of shape to it, so it's not just completely uniform with the letters, just adding a bit of personality to it and adding your own kind of flair. So that downstroke of the G, I'm going to bring it down and I'm going to loop it. I might not go as big, I'm going to loop it like so. And then, so it's got a nice loop in it. I think that loop there, that downstroke there kind of matches it, kind of adds a bit of symmetry or a bit of balance to the top. You know, you've got the starting off the tall up here with the E and then bringing it low down here. I kind of like that. So then I'm just going to do an S. Like so, and then I'm going to dot that I. So we've got the 3 keywords there, and there's this rogue little space here, which we're going to fill in a sec. So I've got time for any questions if there are some before I start the next part. Can't see on the screen. Is that a question on there? Sorry, I'm asking the guys.
Someone was just asking about which pen you're using, which
okay.
has answered.
Oh, no problem.
Which is the Faber-Castell brush pen in black.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, there's a Q&A question as well that's just popped up on my screen.
Yeah, Louise is answering that.
Okay, fab. Sorry, it keeps popping up on my screen, so I was like...
Well, we'll ask everyone. So somebody's asking, why do you stop and lift the pen between letters you are connecting? A
few reasons. It's really hard to do continuous writing. So obviously from my teaching point of view, I do slow it down a lot so that you can see how I'm writing, see how I'm making those connections. But even when I'm doing it in my own pace, slightly quicker, I would say, I still do, you know, bring my pen off the page or almost like stop and then start again, because it's muscle memory. The more you do those drills, the more you do these drills over and over again, the easier they become, the smoother it will feel. But like anything, you know, it's building that muscle memory. So when, if I was to write the word, for example, little, all in one go, without taking that brush pen off the page, eventually my hand is going to seize up and I've got no movement. That's why, by doing those basic strokes and doing the L, for example, and then just readjusting my hand slightly and then going with the next stroke, it gives you so much more movement and range of movement with your wrist and your hand, and just allows you to work out your spacing as well. Like I said, if I was to do, I'm not even exaggerating here, if I was just to mimic going over the little things, little here, and keep going and not pretending to take that brush off, literally I can't get my hand any further around there, so that E would end up looking, you know, like a blobby mess at the end. So it's really taking your time, and it really helps with your spacing as well, like knowing where to put the brush for the next part. So yeah, I hope that helps. So we've got enjoy the little things. So the next step is to fill in these little gaps. Now what I could do, actually, I'm pretty sure that this pen dries very quickly, which is a good thing. So what I'm going to do is just quickly rub out some of these markings, if I can. But depending on what brush pen you're using, it's only because I know that that is dried from previous experience on this type of paper and the pen, and obviously the climate. It's a warm day that it's dried out. If you were using like actual ink, like a black Indian ink, for example, or watercolor paint, or maybe like the Karen markers, for example. Karen markers, like really like a proper ink, they won't dry as quickly. So I would, if you're not sure, if in doubt, don't rub it out immediately, because you will smudge your work, which is literally the worst. When you are working on a final piece and you smudge, I feel like I've jinxed it now. There we go. I just want to get rid of some of those marks so you can see. So there we go. Kind of starting to match up a bit. I mean, I've gone a bit bigger on this side, I think, this one than this one. But again, every piece is going to be different. You're never going to get exactly the same as everyone, because it's personalised, it's handwritten, it's unique. And that is the joy of brush lettering. So what we're going to do next is I'm going to pop that up here at the moment. We're going to fill in this gap, but I just wanted to show you. So I've done a really simple kind of, sorry, put that back a sec. I've done a really simple kind of almost like banner type thing here for the word the, but I wanted to show you a few ways that you can add fun to those banners. And I've done some here. So like I said, I've done a really simple one here, like that, just two kind of wavy lines, and I've gone with the curve of what space I've got there. But you can also work with like a ribbon type effect. So adding the kind of notches on the end creates that ribbon effect, which is I really like. And then we've got a bit more structure to ribbon, like a folded ribbon here, and then a flowy ribbon, which I love. I mean, there are hundreds of ways of doing these banners. So I wanted to kind of keep it simple for you guys and give you some examples of some. I would say that these ones here are maybe a bit too jazzy for the space that we've got here. You don't want to kind of, by the time we've done a small banner, added in ribbons, this, that, and the other, I think it would take away, by the time then you've written the word the, it would look really small and a bit out of place. So I'm going to kind of choose, I think I might choose this ribbony one, but we'll add that in a second. I'm just going to show you a couple of ways to do them. I get asked these a lot, and I love doing the banners. I love using them obviously in calligraphy pieces. I also love using them on chalkboards. I think they can just really add a lot of fun to your work. So I'm just going to do it in pencil first. So that top one here. It's literally a simple wavy line, and it depends on which way you want to go. I've gone up and then down and then parallel, kind of mimicked it there. You could keep it really straight. I'm just going to do a few just to show you like a really straight one. That's not so straight, that top one, is it? Let's go a wavy one. And you literally just copy the wave of the top one, depending on the shape that you're trying to fill. Or we've got a ribbon type effect here. And again, it's the same premise as two parallel lines, but we're adding that ribbon effect. And to add that ribbon effect, it's tempting just to kind of draw it in, but I always find that you kind of get a bit of a mismatched or a wonky ribbon end. So what I tend to do is do a dot about halfway in the middle there, kind of like that, where I want the points to meet up, and then I just match them up like so. And then about the same on the other side, like so. And you've got kind of nice balance to it. But you could add a wave to that one as well if you wanted to. These two lower banners, like I said, I love doing them on chalkboards. I think they look really great, or on Calligraphy pieces as well, or just, you know, if you're making a greetings card. When I'm choosing words to put in the banners, if I was doing a greetings card, I would, like using these ones, I would use like the fun words, like happy birthday, maybe, like, you know, like the words that you want to make a feature of, if you're doing something like along the lines of happy birthday. I think as you can make it, you can actually, on a card, you could make that the kind of centerpiece. On a card, for example, like say you were doing a greetings card, landscape greetings card, you've got this lovely nice big banner here that you're drawing out, and then you fill that word, you know, fill that with happy birthday, and then add your flowers and things like that. And I'm going to show you how to do the flowers shortly, so you can almost like have a practice and create your own, as well as doing your postcard that we're doing this evening. You could maybe work on something like that as well. So the next couple of banners, I start off by this one. 2 parallel lines. It's a bit of a wonky line. Oops. Rectangle there, and then I'm going to follow that parallel, the line there, so I'm going to do 2 at the top there, almost like wings at the top, and then the same distance at that there, like so, and then with that one I add in some downstrokes. Match up your ribbon ends, so doing a dot, match it up. And then to add in that kind of fold effect, I'm going to join that outer corner to that corner there, outer corner in there. It's just such a good effect from just such a few simple lines, and you could put those at the bottom so it kind of folds a different way. You could do that diagonally and add the fold. You know, once you kind of learn that basic of the banners, you just keep practicing and they build, and you can add like multiple banners, which is really fun. And then this last one quickly I'm going to show you as a little bonus extra. Bit more complex to this one, but to start off, I start with a wave. I kind of start here and I bring that across like that. So it's like a back to front S almost, and then waving it across. And then I bring that down here lightly. I start there at the bottom, and then I run parallel to that, go across, and then another back to front S on that end. So it's just building up that banner. And building the ends of the ribbon, and then matching up like so. And you can make those ends as long or as short as you want, but I just think they look fab once you kind of get the hang of them. They are a bit fiddly to begin with, but once you get the hang of them, they're great. They're really addictive to create, and look fab when you can create flowers and have flowers coming out of each side, and you can tell I'm a fan of the banner. So, but going back to the piece that we're working on this evening, like I said, I think these two here will be a little bit too fancy for the space that we're working with. So I think for this one, I'm going to do the small ribbon. I'm going to add that in. So with a pencil, I'm just going to work out the spacing. I think I want to go a bit with the curve of the Y. So let's go like that. I'm going to add a bit of a curve to it, I think, like so. Like that. I think you can see on my pencil marking. and add my little dot to it. See that on the pencil. So I've kind of filled in that space. I think that fills the space nicely. If you're not happy with it, rub it out and start again, you know, kind of just get the benefit of obviously having pencil markings is you can work out what you like, what you don't like. If it doesn't look right, think, actually, do I want to add the ribbon ends to it? Should I just keep it really simple like this? Does it make too much of a feature of the word the? You know, it's up to you really, you kind of gauge it. But with that, I'm going to do a lowercase, sorry, an uppercase the. So I'm just going to really pencil that in lightly, just so I know what spacing I've got again, because I'm going to do that with the fine liner that I've got. So again, I've done it really lightly so that it's easy to rub out. So I'm happy with that. And I'm going to take my fine liner. So this is one of the manuscript fine liner pens. I'm going to use that in black so it matches up with the other lettering. These are really lovely to write with. They've got really nice grip on them, like the three-sided, so it's really easy to hold. And I think they would be good for lefties as well, because it's got good grip. Like it's nice and smooth. Doesn't feel weird or anything, you know, that's going to slip out of your hand. So I'm just going to fill in, do my little fine lines there, and do my little, I'm going to make that a bit longer, I think. My little dot to match up, like so, and like this. And like that. That fits in nicely, and I'm just going to fill in the word there. I'm going to do that just in really simple block capitals with my fine liner. Like so. And it's taking shape a lot more. It looks less strange with that gap filled in now. So I'm really pleased with that. I like the balance of it. I like the lowercase g. Yeah. So then we've got this space to fill. So next up will be flowers. Are there any questions about anything before I start doing some flowers? No? Okay. Happy with me to crack on. No questions. Okay. Lovely. You're all very engrossed in this calligraphy. It's good. I can't wait to see everyone's work and how they're getting on. It's one of my favourite bits is seeing everyone's kind of take on it and how well they do, and just, yeah, and everyone's different style as well, because that's one of the things that I love is how when I'm teaching brush lettering, everyone creates their own style. You do develop your own style very early on, and it's kind of, it seems strange that, you know, when you first start thinking, well, no, I have to be doing, I've had to be doing calligraphy for years to develop my own style. I don't think you do. Your style just evolves and changes as you learn new skills and things like that. So you know, there's some people that really love chunky, thick brush pens. I'm showing you a few examples. I think I've got a big, so this is one of the, like, there's some really thick brush pens that you can get here, which I wouldn't have used for this because of the size of the paper. It would have created really thick strokes. And then you've got tiny little brush pens as well that you can get. That this is a Tombow, and it's a tiny, it's not even going to focus on it, but it's a tiny, tiny brush pen. And again, I wouldn't have used that for this size work because it would have looked too small on the page, and we would have had to use lots of different embellishments to fill the page, and I think it would have looked too busy. So it's kind of just choosing the right pen for the right job. And the fun thing about that is you get to just, well, my fun thing is I just love buying pens, and I've always been obsessed with pens since I was at school, like with the stationery cupboard. I don't know about anyone else. Just loved the stationery cupboard, and when there was new pens to buy, or, you know, beginning of school when your mum took you to buy your, fill your pencil case. Oh, the best feeling. So yeah, I still have that joy now, but my joy comes with brush pens and colouring pens, and just, yeah, I'm a pen nerd, shall we say. Right, so next job is to fill in the flowers. So there's no right or wrong way to do these flowers. I think they vary from time to time. So on this one here, I've kind of gone with that shape. I did a little tester run earlier, and when I said I smudged it, I smudged this one. This was a tester run that I was doing. I smudged it with some water, but this was some different flowers. I hadn't finished it yet, hadn't finished filling it in yet, but just to show you the difference in kind of style, I'll show you a few different ways. But the main thing is learning how to do the flowers, but using what you've already got. So not thinking, right, I'm going to go out and buy some watercolor pens or pencil, paints and things like that. It's using what you've already got and making it look lovely. So for this one, I'm going to use, I've got a few brush pens. And I'm going to use I've got the manuscript, some of the duo tips. So these ones here, really lovely colours. They've got like a chisel tip on one end and then a fine liner on the other end, which I love for detail and like floral details and things like that, because then you've got the colour match. A bit like the brush pens that are dual tip brush pens you may have seen. Again, that's great when you've got, I think I've got one here, for example. This is a Tombow one, but it's a brush pen on one end, and then it's a bullet tip on the other end. So again, for when you're doing like detailing of flowers and things like that, it's just really good to colour match. So let's get a few colours out and see what we can create. Now, to make these flowers, I'm going to do the colours first, and then we go over with a fine liner afterwards to kind of add in the detail. So the good thing with the colours, you don't have to be too precise. You'll see that there's some bits here that have got like bits where I haven't fully coloured it in, and it's because I haven't done the fine liner first, I've done that afterwards. So it's not a case of like colouring in the shapes that you've drawn, it's going over, you're using that fine liner to go over the colours that you've done. So I'm going to start with a couple of the roses. I always start with some roses here. And they're really easy to do, and I'm going to start with that pink. I think let's use the chisel tip, and I'm going to start with the roses first, and then we'll build it up to kind of fill that space. So I'm going to use this chisel tip. I'm going to use the kind of corner of it, I think. Well, let's go with it and see what happens. I'm going to kind of draw a rough, when I say circle, I don't want it to be a perfect circle. I kind of want it to have a bit of edge to it. So here I've kind of just gone, it's not a perfect circle, it's got some edge to it, it's a bit rough. I've kind of gone over a bit, so it's a bit darker in places. And I'm going to do a yellow one as well. I'm going to put a yellow one here, and I'm going to make that slightly bigger than that one, I think. Again, when I say circle, it's just kind of a blotch, really. It's a circly kind of circle, and I might just add in, why not, is to add a bit of colour to that, a bit of orange, blend it in. Okay, these blend really well actually, these pens, so you can kind of mix and match as you want. So I've started with my roses, and then I'm going to build up from there. I'm going to use my green to add in some leaves. So I'm going to use the corner of the chisel tip, so I'm not going to go full in, like I'm going to use that corner just to add in some leaves, and then I can fill that in as you want. But you could use felt tips, or you could use brush pens, yeah, whatever you've got really. It's fun to kind of use whatever's in your kit. And not have to stress about thinking, wow, I need to, you can really make something really unique and special without, the fanciest of kit if you don't have it. And that's what I found with over the last year with lockdown and stuff, you know, obviously things weren't as accessible. So it's just like, well, what have I got? What can I make? I was sending a birthday card to people. And what I really loved about that was obviously everyone was at home. So instead of going out to buy a birthday card, I would make something and think like, well, what have I got in stock? I've got some card, I can fold it into a card. Find a nice quote that's relevant to that friend, or a song that may be of relevance, or a new baby, and what can I use? You know, I've got some felt tips, let's use some felt tips and make the flowers, and then add in some detail afterwards. Yeah, I really am a big fan of kind of just working with what you've got. Of course, I love trying new pens, as I mentioned, but you know, if you're struggling to get hold of them, then you go with what you've got in your stock. I'm going to add some flowers through here. I think that would look really nice, and I'm just kind of dotting some leaves. If you want to, I'm kind of freestyling this, but if you wanted to add in, so maybe like I was thinking about this detail here, so I'm going to bring that across like so, just a light pencil marking, and I kind of want maybe that's what I was thinking of. I'm going to maybe bring it there and like there. So can you see those light markings? So, and then I'm going to follow that pencil line with a few leaves, I think, maybe like so, like so, like so. And then this side, I might do a big chunky leaf maybe. Like that. So it looks a bit sporadic at the moment, a bit, what on earth is she doing? Why is she not making flowers? They just look like dots all over the page, but it's just building it up and working with the space that you've got. See, it's totally different to the space that I had on this one. You know, this bottom loop here. Obviously I've gone for a bigger loop, so I think, well, let's make use of that loop. Let's like weave it through and see what we can do. What other colours have we got? I'm going to add in, let's go light blue. Oh, this is a nice light blue. So I think I might do like a daisy shape. Again, I'm not a floral illustrator at all. I kind of really, the roses are my go-to. Like, I love a rose and I love drawing them. I think they're really therapeutic to draw, and kind of like the daisy shape. One of the things that I would love to do is kind of learn a bit more of actual, you know, like maybe get some floristry books and actually study some of the flowers and kind of the shape of how they develop, and then, you know, work it that way. I think that would be a really fun thing to do, because then I can, you know, incorporate it more into these floral kind of decorations that I do. But for now, I like kind of winging it and just making these lovely shapes and just seeing what comes out, basically. Right, so I'm going to go with a kind of, I said I was going to do daisy. I've done like a little quarter of a daisy there, whatever that one is. There's probably people watching that. That's not a flower. But these are my interpretation of a flower, and it's totally up to you, your interpretation. I think I might do a little daisy down here, a bit similar to this one that I did. Again, if you want to pencil it out first, if you're not sure about the shapes that you're doing, I've done these so many times with these random shapes, so I'm kind of used to doing those. What else have we got? We've got yellow and orange. I'm going to just do a little red, maybe. I might use the fine liner actually and do like a, go behind that one and then fill that in. And doing these flowers just purely came from doodling. But even before I started calligraphy, I just used to doodle, and it was always flowers. It was always daisies, really. And when I was on the phone, I don't know about you, when you're on the phone with work, or maybe you might doodle, and it was always flowers for me. It still is. I kind of do little daisies and things, and it's just evolved from there. And then obviously when I started chalkboards and with weddings, I always add in the banners and the floral aspect to it, and it's just kind of started evolving into my work, which I really like because I love working with black brush pens. I think that's my kind of go-to brush pen color, unless I'm working with like an actual paintbrush and ink. But yeah, black is my go-to with brush pens. So then if I can make any like standout, you know, pops of color, then yeah, it's that's kind of my go-to at the moment. Let's put, I think I might do one more little rose maybe down. No, I'm not going to. I'm going to do like a, I'm going to do, talking to myself, I'm going to do a couple of leaves here in yellow, but then I'm going to add a bit of green to them so that then they hopefully go a lighter green before they dry. Let's have a look, see whether that works. It's kind of a bit of experimentation. Yeah. Oh, it's worked. There you go. I kind of like added a deeper green actually. So I think, again, at the moment it looks a bit strange, a bit sporadic, but we will add the fine liner in and then it will really take shape with these. I'm just going to let that dry for a bit longer because it will, the fine liner will bleed into it. So I just want to kind of let those dry a bit. But in the meantime, I'm going to be very gentle, famous last words, and just rub out some of those lines up here while I'm waiting for them to kind of dry out a bit. Being very careful. I'm very aware of what I said earlier, smudging it. So I will wait till the very end to rub those bits out. Okay, still a little bit damp. I'll tell you what we can do. We can work on these green ones here because I did them a while ago. So I'm going to grab my fine liner. I'm going to use the black one. I think I know I mentioned I had a black and a blue one earlier, but I think for consistency, I'm going to just use the black one. Again, I love this effect. Like I love the black, like thin lines over the colours. So I'm going to work, yeah, I'm going to be careful not to go over these flowers just yet. I just want them to dry a little bit more because otherwise those fine lines are really smudged. But I'm going to kind of draw in where I've, like through where I've done those leaves. Like so. And then bring it through like this. And then like that. Like so. And then I'm going to almost outline those shapes. And it's totally up to you whether you are a complete perfectionist, whether you want it completely solid with colour, or whether you want it to be the outline out the outside, or just overlapping that green slightly. I'm going to go around the outside, and I'm not too fussed about a little bit of white from the paper showing through, if that makes sense there. Can you see? So I've gone outside of that green, and that green wasn't fully filled in, but what I will do is probably add in some detail afterwards, and I'll show you. So I'm just going to fill in those like so. That. So I haven't filled in completely. I quite like that effect though. And then what I will do is just add in some little notches to add that leaf effect. So that's one side done. I don't want to add too much on that just yet, although I may add some of these kind of dotted flowers in afterwards. I'm just going to fill in some more of these. So if any questions while I'm filling in some bits of leaves, then feel free to ask away. Well, let me know how you're doing. I know you won't be able to show me on the video because it's a webinar, but you can always drop a comment and say, I'm doing brilliantly.
I think the different pens make a real difference, don't they, Lucy, to get those different effects?
Definitely, definitely. I think the contrast between the thick pen and like the thin fine liner.
Yeah, they've all got a role to play, haven't they?
Definitely.
As well.
Yeah, it's nice to kind of have, instead of just having one single pen to work with, it kind of adds different depth to the page and to the work. Yeah, so I filled in that one there. Starting to really take shape. Now, we might get a bit of bleeding on this fine liner, but we shall see. This one, I'm going to add in some kind of leaf detail. So I'm going to do the roses now. We may get a little bit of bleeding, you know, obviously time, I can't wait for it to, it feels like it's dry, but you may get a little bit of smudge, you know, like the fine line bleeding, but we shall see. But when we're doing a rose, I'm just going to show you on a bit of paper what my process is. I'm going to try and go really slowly. But basically I'm doing a spiral from the inside going to the outside. And I always start kind of quite tightly like this, and I bring it round, and it's just building up momentum. It doesn't, I'm not, in terms of a spiral, if you did consistent like this, it's not going to look like a rose. It's just going to look like you've drawn a spiral on top of some colouring. But by adding, kind of looping it and then going thinner on one side, thicker on the other, you've kind of built up a rose type effect of the top, because obviously roses aren't perfectly spiral like this. They've got a bit of texture to it. Excuse me. So just having a practice. If you want to practice without the flowers underneath first, by all means, you can have a page of just kind of just practicing spiraling around, kind of adding a bit of shape to them. You know, you could add a bit of a wobble to it if you want to, because I that's another element that I like, that it's, you know, not quite perfect. So by doing that, that's what I'm going to take and do on top of the flowers, the colours that we did earlier. So I'm going to do the pink one first, because I did pink first, so hopefully that's dried a little bit quicker than the other one. And I'm just going to keep going, and then as I get to the edges, I go a little bit bigger and fill it in. And you'll see what I mean by, you know, I didn't do the fine liners first, I did the colours first and then added the fine liner afterwards. And yeah, I'm pleased with that one. It didn't smudge as much as I thought, which is a bonus. And then this one's a bit bigger, so I'm going to start, I might start a bit over here and kind of, so it's a bit of an angled one. And then you can bring it a bit lower. But I think the good the thing with that is, just once you start, just go with it, you know, kind of keep going with the momentum of the pen and the spiral. And by obviously I mixed those two pens together, so kind of a bit of a ombre effect of that rose. And then I'm just going to go over and finish these flowers. And fill in. I mean, you don't have to go with fine liner at all, you know, it's totally up to you with that. I think in terms of filling in the lettering piece, it's up to you what colour you add. Yeah, that's personal preference. I really like that. I think what I'm going to finalise with the flowers is I'm going to add in some of these little like dotty flowers. I kind of like, in my head, they're a bit like cow parsley, like they're like fillers, a very simplistic version of cow parsley, just to kind of add a bit of texture basically. So I'm a bit, you know, random with those where I put them. Do some little ones maybe on the end there as well. And I'm going to pop some coming out here. Maybe up here as well. Oh, I thought I'd smudged it then. It's just a bit of eraser. Thank goodness. And and it's not, you know, just go with it. Be random with those kind of dots. There's no real rules. I just like the way that it kind of fills in some gaps. You know, if you're thinking that maybe down here, like I thought, maybe looks a little bit bare, but I didn't put any leaves down there, so.
They're a really nice finishing touch, aren't they, those?
Yeah.
Like you say, it's like the cow parsley.
Yeah. And you know, now I've done that, I'm kind of now looking at this space here. And I think maybe to tie that in, we could just do, I'm going to match it up with the pink. I'm just going to do a little rose, a simple rose, just to fill in that gap. And I'm going to do a little green. We'll wait for that to dry. So in the meantime, I'll do a little bit of a cow parsley. I think this might just tie it in and balance it out slightly. And I think it may smudge that slightly. Yeah, so we'll just let that dry a little bit more. I'm just going to very gently rub those pencil bits out. So while I wait for that pink to dry, I feel like that has almost finished. I'm just going to finish that part, the rose in a sec. But I think, yeah, I'm really pleased with that. And obviously, as you can see, I mean, it's slightly different to the one that I did as a demo, but you kind of work with the sizing that you're working with. But again, it's exactly the same premise. We haven't made a massive feature of the word there. It's not enjoy the little things, it's enjoy the little things, and with an added nice little bit there. We've changed up the banner slightly. So, you know, I've added a different loop to the J, but again, it's exactly the same, you know, kind of premise and spacing I'm really pleased with. And the flowers, yeah.
Thank you, Lucy. That looks fantastic. It's there again. I can tell. Are you one of those people you'll keep looking at it and go, I'll just add a little bit, and I might do a little bit there.
Yeah, I am that person. I go, oh, I just. So when I go out to do a job or something like that, or chalkboards, I'm terrible. If I'm doing chalkboards at home for a wedding, my husband will go, step away. Like, you know, I know what you're like, you know, I'll be nitpicking it until they take it away. So yeah, I am like that, but.
That's great. But more is sometimes more, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, no, I love it. That was fantastic, Lucy. Thank you very much. It looks absolutely beautiful. Mine doesn't look quite like that, but I really enjoyed having a good try. So
good.
And all the hints and tips were really great. The banners, I love it because I don't consider myself particularly creative, and I can do those. And the flowers with the fine liner, fantastic. It's a really simple but really impactful way of doing it. And your wobbly rose just made me smile. So I'm going to remember to create a rose with a bit of a wobble. It's really it's really.
And you'll look at roses differently now when you see them in the shops. And think, oh, it's got a bit of a wobble. They're not perfect, you see. So
exactly. Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you very much. And actually, one of the attendees did say they didn't have lots of questions because your instruction was so clear. And so I think everyone was just very happy following. And it was lovely, very calm, and a lovely pace as well, so everyone could follow. We didn't have lots of people kind of going, hang on, what was that? What was happening?
Yeah.
So that was fantastic. Thank you very
good.
much.
I'm really glad.
We would love to see everyone's creations. So for those of you that are still on, please share. Please be proud of what you've created and share them with us on social media. If you use the hashtag CultPensCreative, then we'll be able to easily find all of those and reshare them if you're happy for us to do that. We would love to have a look. That would be great. And Lucy, we can share them all with you as well. And if, like Lucy and like all of us, you are a self-confessed pen nerd, love that, Lucy, thank you. If you are in need of some more pens, we've got some calligraphy offers on site today, celebrate World Calligraphy Day, but they do end at lunchtime tomorrow, so you might need to be quick on those. As we've mentioned, we have recorded the session, so if you have missed anything, you will be able to go over it again or just go through the process again and create yourself another beautiful card. We will be sharing the recording probably early next week, actually, because one of our graphic designers is on holiday that time of year. So bear with us, but we'll share that on social next week as soon as it's ready. So thank you very much. Hope everybody enjoyed the session. Please follow us on your social media channel of choice to find more about upcoming events. Hopefully we'll be able to get Lucy to come back at some point soon. And if you're not already following Lucy on Instagram, then please do so. And I'm sure none of you forget little old goose, but that's who you need to look for. So this is the end of the session, but we will be hanging on for a little bit longer. So if anyone does have any questions or anything else you want to add, just pop them in the chat. We'll be here for a little bit more. And I think for now, all that's left to say is thank you so much, Lucy, for sharing.
You're so very welcome.
Fantastic. Thank you. And hopefully we'll see you soon.
Yes, definitely.